Okay, so this should be the final video, just to cover off the end of this. So style is next. Style. It's written in the style of an academic report. Yeah, so using our example again, which is an academic style, things that wouldn't be academic style. So I think I mentioned that often I get things like, "Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to talk about." Right, this isn't an academic report, is it? This is a script for a presentation. That's not the task. The task is an academic report. So that's probably the most common mistake that people make. It does annoy me a little bit, and I might just give it back to you if you do that, or you'll score 0 on that point because it's an easy thing to change. There are a number of features here as well, like the style of the language. This is called a contraction, which you wouldn't use in an academic report. So, for example, we wouldn't use it here, although we might say it. Plastics are material that is used in many products. You wouldn't put that in a report. Plastic is. It's academic style. Other things to be avoided might be personal anecdotes. So, for example, in conclusion, plastic pollution. Well, let's put it at the beginning. So, uh, last week I was in my local supermarket. Again, oh, it hasn't. Right, sorry. Last week I was in my supermarket. So you might think, it's interesting to tell a story about plastic in your local supermarket. Not in an academic report, it isn't. Maybe it's nice in a presentation. We'll look at that in a separate video. But this is a personal anecdote and it's not for an academic report. So let's get rid of it. Even, maybe your final thought, which should be, it could be an opinion. You don't put I believe. I believe it is important for everyone to take responsibility. Again, that's personal language. Academic writing is impersonal. So even though it's your opinion, you don't need to write I. You just state it. It is important for everyone to take responsibility. Okay, that's fine. Like that. Is that still academic style? And it's still presenting your opinion. So personal pronouns, I, we, avoid them. They're not academic style. Okay. Let's bring us on to range. So the range of language, range of vocabulary and structures. We looked at things, didn't we, in the lessons? Range of grammar, depending on whether you are writing about a historic problem or a current problem, the range will change. So you need to consider that. Obviously, the language of consequence as well. If so, the language of the problem, depending on historic or current, the vocabulary and structures will be different. And then the solution, the development of the solution, that could be a narrative, a story for a historic problem. Or it could be the current problem. So phrases like it would help, you would be able to, it would address the problem of, okay, these things that are referring to the future and wouldn't definitely happen. And again, the consequences, the language should be appropriate for the consequences. Try and use it. Try and use the language, appropriate language. Push yourself a little bit. It's better to try and use a range of language, vocabulary and grammar structures than just be very simple, because it gets very boring to read. So even if you make a few mistakes, it's better to try than not to. Okay, the last section, accuracy. So this is only worth 8%, right? Or not percent, 8 points, 8 points out of 90. So it is linked to coherence actually, but it's not exactly the same. This could be a reason why it's difficult to follow, right? But not always. That could be the organization of ideas, the development of ideas. But this is just inaccuracies, mistakes in your use of English. If you use a grammar check and a spell check, then there's no reason why you wouldn't score 8 here. But it's not a huge area, because as I've always said, this isn't so much about your level of English, it's how you apply yourself to your research and your collection of ideas, and then expressing those ideas in your own English. Right, so as long as I can understand what you're saying, then you should score an 8, right, or a 6. But or a 4 still isn't a bad score, because it's minimally affected. Understanding is minimally affected. Okay, if it starts getting to the point with rereading because of your mistakes, then you lose points. Mostly we don't have too much of a problem here. If you use not translation, grammar check and spell check, you should be okay. Okay, so that's the second part of the rubric, and that is maximum 48. So the first one was 42. Add them together, I get a score of 90. So then that 90 converts to your score for your 25% of your final mark. Quite a big part of it. If you follow this rubric, you should have no problems. You should score quite a high mark. So please get together, collaborate with your partner. This is very much a joint piece of work. Make sure that you are satisfying all these points. You are doing your best to get the higher score on each one. And if you don't understand any still, then please ask me in class. Okay, that's the end of this on-demand lesson relating to the rubric. Good luck writing your reports. Please make sure you hit the deadline, and I will see you in class.